right, hello and welcome everyone to today's StableNet Snapshot webinar about two-factor authentication and how it is used in StableNet itself. But before we actually start and before I start to show you how it is used in the portal, we want to address two questions. What is 2FA and why is it used, or why do we want to use 2FA? So basically, in its core, 2FA or two-factor authentication is simply like an extra layer of protection, that requires some form of identification before you or a user can log into a system. So first, the user, sorry. So first the user enters their username and password as usual. Then an authentication code is sent to the user's device, authentication device of choice. And exactly this moment is where the extra layer of protection comes into action. And finally, the user types, of course, the authentication code into the login screen and completes the process of login. So in other words, even if someone were or try to steal your password, they would still need like this physical access to your second layer or your second factor of authentication, your device to get in. Okay, so why do we even want to use two-factor authentication? Simply because it increases security. Because by requiring like this two different methods, the method something you know, which is your password, and something you have, which is like your device, your phone, or whatever you use. And this combination makes it much more harder for malicious persons, or attackers to break into a system. So 2FA helps to protect against threats like, for example, phishing, password theft, or brute force attacks. So even if someone maybe tricks you into revealing your password, they still can't get into a system without having your device of choice if 2FA is enabled onto the system. There are several ways to implement that second factor. For example, we can have SMS codes, so a one-time code is being sent via text message, an email, authenticator apps, which is our choice of 2FA. For example, like the Google Authenticator, the Microsoft Authenticator, or any authenticator app of choice. Biometrics, for example, fingerprints or facial recognition, and security keys. Security keys are like physical, for example, USB devices or NFC devices, which you can plug into your computer or tap on your phone. Okay, now that these questions are addressed, let's jump into the portal itself and see how we can enable and use 2FA. For this, we want to switch to the user's customers view. Of course, you can use the navigation on the left side as well. And here I already created a test user. Right now I am logged in as an admin user here. And on the test user, we can enable the two-factor authentication simply by enabling it here. Status is disabled at the moment until we click the Save button. Here we get a prompt that the 2FA setup has to be manually finished by this, in this example, the test user on their next login. Enable 2FA. Now we have the status enabled, but the user action required. As I mentioned, the test user, is, for example, on another system still logged in and can still continue to use and work with StableNet until he logs out and logs in again. And then he needs to finish, he will be prompted to finish the 2FA setup. So please keep this in mind, that the user is not being logged off automatically. So now let's switch to our test user. I will log out from my admin account here, or my admin user. And let's try the test user. When I try to log in without any 2FA code, this is the first login after enabling the 2FA setup. We get a prompt that the user has to complete the setup. he has to download, or he or she has to download an Authenticator app. A small note here, the Microsoft Authenticator is unfortunately not supported. So for example, the Google Authenticator or any other authenticators should work. I will use the Google Authenticator here on my device. Let me scan the QR code real quick. All right, after scanning the QR code, especially with the Google Authenticator, it should look a little bit like, or something like this. This is a screenshot I took earlier with the plus icon. A new QR code can be scanned and a new setup can be completed. And then we have like this 6-digit number, which gets refreshed every 30 seconds. All right, and to complete the setup, I have to enter the code. Let me enter it real quick for you. So if I would enter something wrong here, I would immediately get the message that the code does not match. So let's add the right code and complete the setup. Now the setup is complete and the test user has to log in every time via two-factor authentication. Let's test this again. First, without 2FA is not authorized, and then when we enter the valid code, we can log in. Perfect. Let's switch to our admin user again and go back to the users and customers views. Now we can see the status is enabled. No input is needed anymore from the test user. And yeah, via this view 2FA key, we get the QR code again. For example, if the user, I don't know, gets a new device, for example, or switches his authenticator app, he can always, with his QR code, can set up his authenticator app again. All right. So, but of course, only setting up 2FA does not replace a strong password. So 2FA works best in combination with a strong password. So we always say aim for a password at least 8 to 12 characters long, has uppercase and lowercase letters, some numbers, and special characters. And always try to avoid some personal details in password or common words. So skip passwords like password 123456 or even your birthday, birth date or name. And always, which is the most important part, yeah, make it a habit to update or switch your passwords regularly. Okay. StableNet itself has, of course, some password and logout policies and rules, which can be found in this system.properties file, which can be located in the config folder of your StableNet server installation. Here we can set, or you can set different password policy parameters, for example, the minimum password length, lowercase characters, uppercase characters, and so on. So these ones here are all default values, and you can change them if you want to. But we also have account blocking parameters. This means how many logins can be failed until a account gets blocked for a period of time. For example, here I have set the account block limit to 2. So this means he can fail 2 times, and after the third attempt, his account get blocked for 1 hour. This can also be changed, of course. These policies can also be found in our documentation, either on our website in the documentation or inside the StableNet portal itself. So if you click on or go into the documentation and search, for example, for password policy, these ones are also here, and here's also here it is described where to find it in your server installation. So now let's, for example, yeah, let's log out and try to block our test user. We can as you know, the 2FA code is enabled. So if I try to log in, it's not authorized, and now he is blocked. So even if I try to log in now with a correct 2FA code, we get the login error message. And you may notice that the error message is always the same error message. This is intended and simply for security reasons, so no malicious person, attacker gets an information what is actually wrong with this account. All right. So to wrap it up, two-factor authentication provides, I would say, a very critical extra layer of security because we combine the two different methods I mentioned, something you know and something you have. It makes attacks like phishing or brute force much more difficult. And that's why we highly recommend to enable 2FA. Of course, it's if possible, and always use strong and unique passwords. All right, that's going to be it for today's Snapshot webinar and two-factor authentication. Thank you.